This is by far the prettiest venue I have ever held a speech in. And this is probably by far also the best dressed audience I've ever given a talk to. So thank you so much for that. I did not get the dress code. And I start to worry that I might not be here to share information, but to be entertainment, which is... My name is Carl. I am the CEO and co-founder of a company called Tictail. We describe our company as being the home to the world's best emerging brands from all over the world. We're a marketplace where you can basically go in and discover local designers in fashion, home decor, art, and basically find products from Barcelona, Berlin, Paris, from over 140 countries, all gathered in one place. I often liken the experience of shopping on Tictail as to when you're on a trip. Let's say you go somewhere, you go to Spain, to Barcelona, and you get lost in a neighborhood. You stumble around for a while, and as you sort of like explore the city, you walk past a small shop. You go into this store, maybe you pick up a conversation with the store owner, and as you leave that store, you buy a shirt. And when you come back home to Stockholm or to London or wherever you might be based, that shirt, that product that you bought from that small vendor, it means more to you. It's not just a shirt, it's a memory, it's something that tells a story about something you experienced. Because when you buy something on Tictail, you're not just buying a product, you're buying into a small business. You're supporting someone to take the step from turning their passion and their dream of building this business and turning that into a reality. That's the mission of our company. We create a platform to support the self-made entrepreneur to build a global brand. We bring together the tools required for an unsophisticated first-time seller to reach a global audience of customers. And we kind of create this way of discovering the creativity that is out there in the world in one single destination online, our marketplace. We launched this company back in May 2012 here in Stockholm in my kitchen. And since then, we've grown a fair amount. Today, we have offices here in Stockholm where we have most of our product and engineering. And I'm based in New York, where our second office is, where we run marketing. We have stores from over 140 countries. Our marketplace boosts sales from over 4 million unique products you can't find anywhere else. And we have come to raise over $30 million from some of the world's best investors like Random, that I know are here today, Thrive Capital in New York, Waldekranz Capital in the UK, and Acton and Project A in Germany. We're a marketplace. And I thought that today, there's probably been a lot of talks about the future, where the world is going. And quite frankly, I have no idea. So I figured it would be better for me to spend the time I have with you guys here today to talk about not the future, but how did we, Tictail, end up where we are today? And what were some of the decisions that we made along the way to get us to this point? And I thought I would be talking a little bit about how we built a marketplace and what are sort of decision points to getting where we are today, what they were and why. So obviously, as you're thinking about like building a business and maybe perhaps building a marketplace, marketplaces are super, super exciting because they benefit from really strong network effects, meaning supply and demand follow each other. And for that reason, marketplaces are traditionally quite difficult to disrupt, but also, unfortunately, really, really hard to build. And the first problem you run into, the first challenge you run into in trying to establish a strong marketplace is, of course, the one of the chicken or the egg. What do you go after first, supply or demand? And in our case, I would say almost neither. Because Tictail, like some other marketplaces, didn't start off as a marketplace. We started as a tool. There was a blog post written a couple of years back by Chris Dixon, the investor, called "Come for this tool, stay for the network," which I thought was a really, really elegant way of describing some of the mechanisms and dynamics that can go into establishing a network of different kinds. In this blog post, he talks about the evolution from Hipstamatic to Instagram. How many people here remember Hipstamatic? Hands up. Not that many, like less than a tenth, perhaps. So when the iPhone came, there was a plethora of photo apps coming into the App Store. All of these apps offered more or less the same features at more or less the same price. They gave you, the shopper, the consumer, the ability to add like creative and cool filters to the photos that you snap day to day of your friends. And then you could share those photos that are now enhanced by this app to your existing social medias like Twitter and Facebook and so forth. These apps were selling at around $1 or 50 cents each. They were cheap, and there were a lot of them. And the biggest one, the app that seemed to lead the photo category in the App Store, was Hipstamatic, had millions of users. And then one day comes an app, this is 2010, called Instagram. And this is before Instagram was acquired by Facebook and have millions and millions of users. At this point, Instagram is just a tool. They offer the same features as Hipstamatic, only worse. They give you the ability to create beautiful filters on your photos. And there's no users on Instagram, so once you posted a photo and added the filter, you share it to Instagram, sure, but the real value that you derive from this property was to share it to your other social networks, like Twitter and Facebook, and that's where the social action happened. And what really drove the users of Instagram was the fact that they took a tool, the ability to create sort of filters on your photos, and they commoditized that tool. They started offering it at no cost, making first thousands and then tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of users start to prefer Instagram over competing alternatives like Hipstamatic. And over time, as more and more users flooded to this platform for the tools that it provided, all of a sudden, a value proposition, a value started to be derived from the fact that people were also posting these photos into their Instagram feed. And more of the social action started to happen within the app. And slowly it started transforming from a tool into a network. At Tictail, we have a somewhat similar story. We started our business in May 2012 by creating the simplest way to create a beautiful online store at no cost. The world that we looked at the time was a world where there were hundreds, if not thousands, of SaaS platforms, e-commerce platforms, offering more or less the same features at the same price, going after the same customers in the same marketing channels. And the world that we saw was one where basically we witnessed a race to the bottom, where brands were starting to add more and more features, competing for like higher and higher up, a smaller and smaller pool of more upscale merchants, sellers, and trying to at the same time squeeze their prices down to compete with other SaaS platforms. And our take was that in this world, the majority of brands, the majority of sellers, the 90% of the entire base of customers that these platforms are going after are actually satisfied by only 10% of the features. And we're going to take those features and we're going to offer them at a lower cost in a much more easy and fun way to use. And we created a platform that allowed you to create a beautiful online store from your phone that started to attract first hundreds and then thousands and then tens of thousands of brands from around the world. These were brands like interior home decor designers like Alvaro Hernandez in Spain, German artists and illustrators like Sara Illenberger, or Swedish fashion brands like Cornelia Webb, who started her business on Tictail and have now grown to become a really, really big jewelry designer. She's won several international fashion awards, and most recently, her jewelry was seen on Lady Gaga. The one thing that started driving the growth for our merchants was certainly community, but it was something else as well. It was the fact that Tictail wasn't just a backend. We wasn't just a tool. When you came to a Tictail store, what made us different from other e-commerce platforms was the fact that you could tell that it was a Tictail store. In each store on our platform, in the top right corner, we offer the ability to either follow that brand, to get updates when they release new products or discounts, or start to discovering other brands on the Tictail platform. And we also offered you the ability to start your own store. And I don't think we quite realized just how important this small feature would be when we first launched our platform. Because as it turns out, 15 basis points of all traffic that would go to any of the stores on our platform would click on this button and not just sign up for an account on Tictail. They would go through our entire onboarding process. They would upload photos. They would connect to payment options. They would set up shipping. And they would launch a store on our platform. Now, 15 basis points doesn't matter much when you have 1 store or 2 stores or 3 stores. But as you start getting to a really big scale, 15 basis points does add up. And this small number allows you to launch thousands of stores every month at no cost. And that's basically how we were able to grow our platform from my mom's business, the first store on our company, to having over 100,000 stores in less than 4 years with no dollars spent on marketing. The other interesting phenomena that happened because we had this strong organic growth was the fact that there was a huge overlap amongst the store on our platform. We learned that there was a very deep concentration in a few 5 categories that were all sort of within the lifestyle space. 90% or so of our inventory was in fashion, jewelry, accessories, home, and art. And it makes sense, right? Because the users of our platform find our platform through other users of our platform. Users that they were most likely interested by, inspired by, and that they were in the same realm as. And as we looked at this inventory, we learned, well, these are products that you can't find anywhere else from brands whose biggest challenge it is to find customers, to drive their sales, to be discovered. Now, if our job as a business is to empower the self-made entrepreneur to build a global brand, then what better way can we do this, can we accomplish this, than to actually bring customers to their door, to actually connect them to the buyers. And that's how we started to think about the transition of being a tool with a lot of different inventory, all sort of narrowed into a few select categories, and turning that into the marketplace that we have today. And we started this journey in 2016. And 15, we started talking about this transition. The way we view the world of marketplaces and the position that we wanted to take in the world of marketplaces is this one. There's a lot of ways you could slice and dice marketplaces, and today I think we're at a place where we definitely are coming to a place where you had these mega broad global marketplaces like Craigslist that try to cater into every single category. And then the next phase, the next generation of marketplaces was that each category of Craigslist was broken out into its own marketplace. So you would have Elance or Airbnb, and they would kind of like form niche marketplaces that were more specific and more targeted. And now I think we're experiencing this third wave where within these niches, there's the subdomains of those niches that are now becoming and turning into their own marketplaces. One way you could slice the world of marketplaces in e-commerce is by the types of vendors that are on them and the types of products that they sell. So when we think about marketplaces that are in the sort of lifestyle and home decor space, we look at marketplaces that cater to hobbyists, meaning people that don't have real businesses, that run their business from their kitchen, essentially. All the way to real businesses that think of this marketplace not as sort of like an extra income, but as part of their marketing and sales strategy. These are the companies that have offices, that have people on staff. And then you can slice it by the types of products that these marketplaces sell. So starting off at the bottom, you have commoditized goods. Marketplaces like Amazon and Jet, where you could buy light bulbs. These are the type of product categories that mostly compete on convenience and price. You don't care what the story behind your light bulb is or who the provider or the designer was. You care about 2 things. You care about price and you care about convenience. You want the light bulb at the lowest cost shipped to your apartment at no time at all. And then you have marketplaces that have more unique products. Products that don't compete on price and convenience, at least not purely. That compete on design, on storytelling, on background. Where you're not just buying a product, you're buying into that product, you're supporting that business. So we think of ourselves in this sort of top right corner where we're a marketplace that caters to real businesses. Unlike Etsy, we're not for the sort of mom and pop that are hand knitting sweaters from their apartment. We are for the businesses that have graduated from the kitchen table and now have real aspirations to build a real big meaningful brand They work with factories, they have warehouses, they're not producing one product at a time, they work with collections of items. But those items are definitely in the space of sort of like the design world. You're not just buying a sweater, you're buying a sweater because it's this specific design from this specific designer. So when you think about our company today, we offer 2 services. We give you all of the tools you need to set up an online store and run your website from our business. And we charge like a pretty standard SaaS rate at $10 per month for this business. And then on the other hand, we have the marketplace component that essentially enables these people to build their business and grow and find their audience wherever in the world they happen to be. And what's so interesting is that now we've taken the next cool step in our life, and it's a very small step, but it's an interesting one. In January of last year, so it's been open for a year, we opened up our first retail store as well. It's in the Lower East Side of New York, and if you're ever in the neighborhood, you should come by. Just send me an email. I'm carl@tictail.com. And it's pretty cool to see this remarkable change where you have more and more online businesses that are turning into the offline or to the retail world. And I don't know why other businesses do it and exactly what drives it for them. For us, our retail presence is not sort of a core revenue driver for our business. It's not what we think will be the sole future of the company. We run this business more or less as its own company. It has its own sort of P&L. We have its own staff, and it does break even. But the benefits we get from this store isn't measured in the sort of the dollars that we gain from it. It's the fact that it gives us the first time to really tell the story in a way that's even more personal than this, where people can enter our space and see the sort of unique inventory and hear the stories of the brands that use our platform and really experience Tictail in person. And we use this as sort of a platform to really engage with journalists, with influencers, and use it as sort of like this high-touch event. And then the way we measure its success is basically the ripples that this create in the digital world. That's a quick introduction to our business and sort of how we think about the world of marketplaces and the opportunity that we're going after. Thank you so much for your time. If there are any questions, I'll hang around here for a few minutes before you can go on, continue your networking for the day. Thank you so much. Any questions? Oh, great. The name? So the question was, how did we come up with the name Tictail? That's a good question. I have asked myself that a few times. No, well, actually, we felt strongly that we wanted to have a name that didn't mean anything specific. In looking at these shop creators that were out there, they all seemed to have something around commerce in their name. It was BigCommerce or Shopify. And when we think about Tictail, we try to think of ourselves less as sort of a shop creation platform that's very descriptive and feature-oriented, functionally oriented in its name. We want to think of this as sort of a community and a movement that can grow in different types of directions. So we wanted to have a name that we could fill with value and that we could define ourselves, but that would still feel friendly and easily recognizable. So actually the name comes from just a word play. We were playing around with the word of boutique, which was the types of sellers that we thought we would go after the most, design-oriented small businesses. And then it was retail that became tail, and then boutique became tick, and retail became tail, and that became Tictail, and that's it. Well, I think there were 2 phases of it. The first part, I think, was before the marketplace, when you had the ability to follow brands, and that would allow you to discover other brands on the platform. And I think that community kind of invented itself. When we first launched, we called ourselves the Tumblr for e-commerce. And I think in the same way that Tumblr never went out and said we will only have blogs that are about the creative industry that features sort of cutting-edge design, sort of that community naturally found its home there. And by getting that critical mass, it kind of just, the rest of them started to continue to gravitate towards that platform. I think that happened to Tictail as well. And to be honest, there wasn't like some genius strategy to that. That was just sort of a group of very naive entrepreneurs that were going after our friends' brands. And then that sort of like just went from there. In the marketplace, we've taken a much more sophisticated and aware approach to how we think about our network and our network effects, which I think comes down to really understanding the inventory that you have and really understanding early signals from shoppers in what they're looking for, and using the sort of combination of those two to make sure that you find other shoppers that are like you and brands that are catering to your taste, and that we really drive that sort of cross-store discovery across the platform. So that once you discover one brand, we use that signal to really promote the right other brands to you and build those interactions. So the question was, during the different phases of fundraising, we were a Series B company, so we've been up 3 times, I guess. As we were talking to different investors, why did we pick the ones that we ended up working with? Well, I think it comes down to a number of factors. I think obviously if you're in a position to have multiple offers on the table, which we've been lucky enough to in each of our fundraisers have, you obviously think about what are the terms and what's the valuation and how much can we raise from these partners. But in more than once in our fundraisers in the past, we have ended up going with term sheets and valuations that have been less than the highest bidder. And I think in each case, we have had the great benefit of picking investors that we think that we can really have a fantastic personal relationship with. And for me, the most important thing has been that I have felt that actually, like, one thing that's really worth pointing out is that I've always valued the partner much more than the firm. I think startups often talks about firms and like, were you able to raise from this fund? It's the reality is that once you kind of make the announcement and TechCrunch writes about it, you're more exposed to a specific person from that fund than the fund itself. And for me, it's been super, super important to know who my partner is going to be and to get to spend a lot of time with that person and make sure that that's someone that I think share my vision for the company and who I think I will enjoy having like a lot of good one-on-one sessions with. Anything else? That was still a lot more than I had expected, so thank you so much for that. Okay, great. Have a fantastic remaining part of your day. Thank you.